And welcome back to Subculture After Dark. Well, we've got a very special guest on the phone right now because Gatecreeper are coming back to Australia this April, and we thought we would get one of the members of the band on the phone right now to chat a little bit about this amazing tour that we know so many of you are excited about. So welcome to the program, Chase.
Thank you, thank you. Where are you located?
So I'm just out of Melbourne, but going by your shows, I'm probably a little bit closer to your Frankston shows than your Melbourne shows. So thanks for
Okay.
thanks for joining us. Now, I know a lot of our listeners out there are very excited about you guys coming back to Australia. So tell us a little bit about
Mhm.
how you feel about heading back here.
We're very excited. We went over there last year for the first time. We got a little taste. We like dipped our toes in a little bit. We only played shows. We got to do a lot of the touristy stuff. We got to hold the koalas, see the opera house, and just probably what every American band does when they go over there. But this time we'll be back for I think 10 shows or near that amount, and we'll be traveling, on the road in Australia for the first time, and we are excited to play. The shows were awesome last time. I think that they're going to be even better this time, playing a lot of different cities than we did before, and we'll also be able to experience the more day-to-day life in Australia that we didn't get to experience before because it was so hectic and we were flying in between every show and things like that. So we're looking forward to taking in everything Australia has to offer this time around.
Definitely. And how did you find the audiences and the crowds last time you came? Because a lot of people talk about the fact that when they come to Australia, they find that the shows are a little bit rowdier than what they expected. How did you find the crowds here in Australia at your shows?
The shows were great. I mean, we felt at home. That it didn't feel that much different from a show from where we're from in Arizona or in the U.S. in many places. So it didn't feel, there wasn't much of like a culture shock or anything like that. I would say if anything, we just felt comfortable and it felt like a normal show or like a good show. So, it was very promising, because going over to somewhere for the first time, it's, you never know what to expect, but the brief experiences that we've had with Australia so far left us feeling very good, and obviously, had us wanting to come back very soon. So within a year, we're on our way back.
Now, you've had a little bit of a change since that last tour as well. You've signed with Nuclear Blast. Tell us a little bit about what that means to you and how did that come about?
Um, we had actually signed to Nuclear Blast like a couple years ago.
Yep.
But we haven't released a record with them. So we were on Relapse and we did 2 records for Relapse. And after Deserted came out, we we were kind of free agents, I guess. And this happened to be during, right at the beginning of 2020. So the world was kind of in a weird place. And we weren't able to tour, and, we did that EP Unexpected Reality on a different label, through our friend's label, Close Casket Activities. So we were kind of all over the place. So it was around that time that we ended up signing with Nuclear Blast. But there was no expectation of like us doing a new record immediately, because we had just put out basically 2 records. So how that happened is we came in contact with a guy named Monty Connor. He is a legendary music business metal guy. He used to work for Roadrunner in the 90s.
Yep.
Signed a bunch of our favorite bands. He signed Obituary, Sepultura, Typo Negative, all those classic Roadrunner bands. Now he's at Nuclear Blast, and he's been there for a couple years. And once we kind of became acquainted with him, and he came out to our shows, and we were talking to him, and it just felt like a good fit for us. And Nuclear Blast having a large reach in Europe, which is something that we're kind of bringing into focus, especially with our new record. So it just seemed like a good fit, and they've been patient with us. Like we didn't give them a record for several years, but now we just recently finally delivered them their first record. So,
can you tell us anything at all about the new record, or is it all hush hush at the moment?
It's a little hush hush, but it's not like there's not a huge secret. I can tell you right now, we have a new record that's coming out this year. By the time we come to Australia, there's not going to be the record isn't going to be out, but it's going to be announced, and there's going to be new music out that you can listen to, and we're going to be playing new songs from the record in our set in Australia. I can tell you that much.
Awesome. And how did you find working on the new album? Like, as you said, it'd been a little while since An Unexpected Reality came out. How did you find the process of sitting down and working on the new album?
It's stressful, honestly. We were working on this record for quite a while. There's some songs that have been kind of brewing for a couple of years. And we're at a place with our band where it's like, this is an important time for us, and new label and all kinds of different things surrounding us, where there's a little bit of pressure of like, we need to knock it out of the park, like we need to do a really good job here. We need to make the best record that we can. So what we ended up doing was taking off like almost the entire last year of touring and just working on the record. That's not including the year before that we were, kind of writing the songs. So for the process of this, it's definitely the longest we've taken on, any of our records, but by far. But we're just very particular. We're very, everything that we do, whether it's a music or a flyer or whatever it is, like everything has a very, we're very meticulous about everything. We're very particular, and we want things to be a certain way before we release it to the world. So we definitely took our time with this record and made it exactly how we wanted it to be.
Definitely. You said working on the album always feels a little bit stressful. How does it feel when you start playing new tracks live? Do you get excited about being able to release that music out to your fans, or do you still get nervous when you play a new track live for the first time?
It's fun. It's definitely a nervous, but it's kind of like that fun, nervous excitement. It's always stressful. There's pressure. There's probably more internal pressure than anything, like where you can get in your own head of like, oh, we have to make this better than the last one, or whatever it may be. And I'm still nervous, like I'm still, the record is done and some people have heard it, but I'm still nervous. Even if I'm sending it to one of my friends to be like, hey, check it out, I'm still nervous to hear what they have to say, but then in the end, it's always very validating, and fulfilling, I guess, when you worked really hard on this thing and people start to hear it and they start to tell you, oh, this is my favorite song, or I can hear this influence in this song that you intentionally put in there. So I'm always nervous for people to hear it for the first time, and that's kind of where we're at now, is like we're nervous and excited to see what everybody thinks about this project or album or batch of songs that we've been working on for several years at this point.
Well, we definitely cannot wait to be able to sit down and listen to the album when it comes out later this year. Talking of set lists, though, what have you got planned for us here in Australia? Because you've got some amazing tracks behind you now, and of course the new stuff as well. Is it getting harder to put together a set list, and what can we expect from this set list for the Australian tour?
Yeah, it is getting harder. That's actually something that we were just talking about amongst the band in the last couple of days, trying to figure out what our set lists are, because at a certain point, we're not a overly prolific band. We put out a record every 2 or 3 years, so there's not, just that we don't have hundreds of songs to choose from or something like that. But it gets to the point where you have enough songs, and now enough new songs where you're trying to put new songs into the set list, but that might mean then you have to cut something that's been in your set list for the last 8 years, and then just trying to figure out like, okay, everything that's in the set list, these are songs that these are staples, we would consider a staple song of a Gatecreeper set list, and having to figure out like, all right, well, we'll have to replace this one with a new one, or deciding like, okay, which new songs do we want to play? So it's always a game, like we usually figure out a set list before a tour, and we play that, for the most part, play the same set every night. It's kind of like not really off the cuff, but maybe we'll change that. Maybe we'll start, kind of doing it the day of and see what we're feeling. But it's always a puzzle to put together on the set list for us.
Awesome. Well, we can't wait to hear what you've got planned for us here in Australia. You mentioned before that you like to get off and do a little bit of the touristy stuff when you're not on stage. Is there anything that you didn't get to do in Australia last time that you're really looking forward to doing this time around?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't get to. We did a lot of the very obvious touring stuff, but I think we're looking forward to and excited to just try the more normal stuff, like eat some Australian fast food, and just kind of see what Australian life is like, on the roads. Like on the way from point A to point B. That's really how you get to know a new place, is kind of the places in between. So we're excited to just acclimate, take however long we're there, 2 weeks, to fully acclimate to the Australian culture.
Definitely. Well, when you're in Frankston, I've got to recommend that you go to a fish and chip shop, you buy some fish and chips, you buy what we call a Chico roll, and sit down and just enjoy it, because you don't get much more Aussie than a Chico roll.
I think I might have had one when we were in Melbourne last year. What is it in it?
So they're kind of like a spring roll, except they've got a really crunchy outside, and then inside it's kind of different meat and vegetables, but it's hard to explain, but it's different to a spring roll, but it's very similar at the same time. But it was famous here in the 1980s, because when they first started to advertise them, they used to get absolutely gorgeous models to be what they called the Chico Roll Girls. So it kind of became a thing where you would go and get a Chico Roll and a Coca-Cola, because they were the two big commercials with the attractive models on them here in Australia. But yeah, I still love a good Chico Roll every now and then.
I mean, that sounds like a good combo to me.
Yep. Yeah.
A good, let's say we have a similar, it's like here, it's like you would get like a gas station hot dog and a Coke. Yeah. So I get it.
Definitely.
That's the kind of stuff that we're into, like we want to know what the regional cuisine is. We want to know what the weird stuff that people eat, or like the very specific things to do that wherever we're at. And that's, we want to try it out.
Yeah, well, the thing about Australia as well is we eat a lot of our wildlife. So things like kangaroo, crocodile, there are different restaurants that you can go to and try that as well. Like, living in a country area, I kind of grew up on eating kangaroo. I know there's a few people out there these days that are like, you shouldn't eat the kangaroo because they're on the coat of arms, but a lot of people still do it. And it's a different taste, but it's a lovely taste. So, yeah, there's lots of stuff for you to try.
Right on.
Awesome. Well, I guess to wrap up the interview, what would you like to say to people out there who are thinking about heading along and checking out you guys live on this Australian tour?
I mean, if it's coming anywhere close to you, I hope that if you're on the fence, that I think that you should come out. I think it's a good tour package. I think that for us, it's our early on in our Australian touring career. Whenever we go, Australia is something that hopefully we can start coming back to more often. But I think that for this tour, it's like pretty small venues, and I think that it should be kind of the perfect space for someone who is looking to come and see us for the first time. I feel like these shows would be a great introduction to what we're all about. And then maybe next time when we come back, whether it's a festival or bigger venues, or maybe we're support to another band, and then they can see us in a different setting. But I think that this tour, the way that it's set up with the other bands that are playing with us and the type of venues that are that we're playing at, I think it's going to be a perfect Gatecreeper experience for anybody who's curious.